All right, we can dive in to
Here we go.
Ahsoka now here. Episodes 1 and 2, which first one was titled Part 1, Master and Apprentice, written and directed by Dave Filoni. It aired August 22nd, 2023. And we can jump into this. Let's try to keep it at episode 1 for now, and then we can kind of jump over to part 2 later. But I have the crawl here, and I'm just going to read it. It says the evil galactic empire has fallen and a new republic has risen to take its place. However, sinister agents are already at work to undermine the fragile peace. A plot is underway to find the lost Imperial Grand Admiral Thrawn and bring him out of exile. Once presumed dead, rumors are spreading of Thrawn's return, which would galvanize the Imperial remnants and start another war. Former Jedi Knight Ahsoka Tano captured one of Thrawn's allies and learned of a secret map which is vital to the enemy's plan. Ahsoka now searches for the map as her prisoner Morgan Elsbeth is transported to the New Republic for trial. Overall, what do we think of the crawl in the sense of it's red and it doesn't scroll? I was kind of surprised that they went with like a totally different opening crawl.
I loved it. I tweeted a few months ago that if Star Wars wanted to, start to make themselves feel fresh and different, they would do away with the crawl. I think last night kind of made me eat my words a little bit because it's still got that essence of what we know and love from Star Wars, but it was just different enough to where it felt fresh, and the red sort of ominous lettering was so like it just kind of overtook you with a little bit of a sense of dread to start the episode, and we saw why with that opening scene with Shin and Balin. But I absolutely loved the red crawl. I thought it was awesome.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. I thought it was a lot of fun because it was Star Wars. It felt Star Wars. But the Red Man, I think I sent a message. I was like, "This is a vibe. It's a different feel, but it's the same thing." It felt like a cousin to the movies almost, and I was like, "I'm digging it."
Yeah, I wonder if there's supposed to be any sort of symbolism or reason we get the red. Is it because of we open with Balin and Shin instead of like episode 1 having Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon, or I'm kind of curious because it's just a interesting pick. I am actually
also, if you not to cut you off, George,
yeah.
but in the beginning intro, like when we see the flashing and it's normally the red and the blue, it's all red. So it was
true.
It was very clearly an intentional choice, I think, to sort of set that darker, more like ooh, what's about to happen tone.
Yeah, I'm one that's for the crawl. Okay, so when they say that the crawl is movies coming out soon, I'm like, hell yeah, sign me up for that. Because I do think it can help just set the stage for, especially for people that have not seen Rebels. Chris, did this crawl give you enough information to kind of be like, okay,
Yeah, I wasn't lost. I sent you a couple questions during episode 2, but I wasn't lost watching this. I was like, okay, I can follow this. Felt like they gave me the pieces I needed. And I was also kind of down for the ride. I was like, it's cool. It's hitting with me, and I'm enjoying just the movie like quality of this. So I wasn't lost. I was there. I had kind of, I listen to enough podcasts and I interact with enough people online. I have some of the cliff notes of some of the stuff anyway in my head. So I thought it was fun. I don't think it holds your hand, but I also don't think it needs to.
From what I read, like Filoni tried to launch this show as like episode 4, A New Hope, where you kind of jumped in and you learn about the Clone Wars and Obi-Wan Kenobi and all this stuff that like really wouldn't make any sense to you. There's references to Luke's father that you're like, are we supposed to know who that is? But like audiences back then were just like, all right, like the crawl told me everything I need. I think sometimes people get almost like they want everything like almost Wikipedia entries spit out like when people mention a name, because I think I've seen Rebels. I've watched it. I do think they set this up well enough, but, and I know I've said this a lot to everybody that I've spoken to about this, but I do think the reason people are confused is Ahsoka and Sabine's relationship in this show is there's a gap there. We never saw her train Sabine, and I think people that haven't watched Rebels think that we have, and think that there's some reference that they're missing in that regard. But to be honest, there isn't. It is just like it's a reference almost like the Clone Wars in episode 4, where it's like at that point you have no clue what they're referencing, and we're gonna get those nuggets, I think, throughout the show. So
yeah, I mean, outside of Kanan training her when she got the Darksaber, we don't really spend that much time dealing with Sabine's force sensitivity, like, at all, really.
Yeah,
it's not a major plot point of the show.
And Kanan does mention to her when she is training, like, mentions to Hera, I think, when he's training her, it's like, you know, every being has the Force, right? She's closed herself off to it or whatever. So it isn't really coming out of nowhere, like some people have said that Sabine is being trained. And I think Huang, even in this show, says you have the Force a little bit, but like not a lot, right? Like,
yeah, he said like you are among the lowest or so. I forget the exact quote, but yeah.
So I feel like that's all the information you need on that. And what I do like, okay, here's something that's confusing my wife all the time too, right? So she's not hardcore into this, but she thinks everything takes place between 3 and 4. And the reason I'll tell you that is because so many freaking projects lately have taken place between 3 or 4. So that's like her default, right? She's like, Andor, 3 and 4. Rogue One, 3 and 4. Solo, 3 and 4, right? Like, she's kind of hardwired it when I'm watching Bad Batch or whatever, Rebels, between 3 and 4.
Well, especially the live action stuff too.
Yeah.
Like, pretty much everything has, right? Boba Fett,
Obi-Wan, exactly.
Mandalorian, those are all between 3 and 4, correct?
Well, no, Mandalorian.
Oh no, you're right. You're right.
7,
yeah. I forgot. Yeah.
So, I told her, I was like, this is taking place around the same time as Mandalorian. She said, that's 3 and 4, right? I said, no, that's 6 and 7. Like, this is right after 6. So
Boba's afterwards too, right? Obviously, because that whole thing with Luke and rebuilding the Jedi Temple. So that's afterwards too. I misspoke there.
Yeah, she's always lost though. So I had to like pause it like right away and be like, no, this is after 6. Like, just this is after 6.
It can be confusing.
One of the reasons I liked what I watched was because I want to use the show to help launch me into more of this stuff. I want to learn more about Star Wars, and I feel like it doesn't shut me down at any point. It doesn't give me an information overload where I'm like, oh crap.
Yeah, it takes its time over the first 2 episodes to kind of slowly feed you the information that you need, while also still providing this new information that even us, you know, more diehard kind of animated fans, new information to us, all while still giving us some pretty kick-ass action scenes in between too.
Yeah, and I'm not the hugest Star Wars guy. Like, I like Star Wars, but you guys are on another level. Like, I'm the Padawan here, and I got to tell you, I'm chomping at the bit for the next episode.
Yeah, get on our level, Chris.
I will. I will. No,
I swung with you.
Look. So the thing about Star Wars is there's so much I didn't even know was there. Like, it just wasn't on my radar, and I think it's so cool that you have Disney Plus shows like this because it helps me get this on my radar. I'm really excited about it. This opens a whole new world. It's like the first time you jumped into Harry Potter or something. It's like there's a whole wealth of stuff out there, and I was like, oh, there's 9 movies. Yeah.
The way that I think of it is that the movies are the outline sort of the drawing, and the television shows are the color. That's what kind of gives you really all of the stuff that the ins and outs of the galaxy.
Yeah.
Nice.
So we open up on a New Republic cruiser as Morgan Elsbeth is being detained. And we get okay, this is something that doesn't bother me, but I just think that like these people need to learn better, right? In the sense of
Yeah.
it's an old code, sir. Oh yeah, let them land. There's no way these are real Jedi. And the same thing happens in episode 6, right? When Luke and them are trying to land on Endor, and the Imperial's like, it's an old code, sure, sir. Should I let them through? And they're like, yeah, why not?
Just let
right?
him through. Yeah.
It's like, maybe if it's an old code, it should tell you that they are a little sus, right?
It wouldn't
There's
be
nothing
Star Wars if there
conspicuous
wasn't
here.
Yeah, it wouldn't be Star Wars if there wasn't an entire fleet of very dumb NPCs. So I
Yes.
didn't
Who also can't aim when they shoot.
exactly.
But yeah, they come in, and it's Balin and Shin who are coming down the ramp, and they're like, you're right about one thing, right? It's almost like the Obi-Wan Qui-Gon thing. We're not Jedi. And then they start tearing them up. Man, Ray Stevens, it was Stevenson, right?
Stevenson, yeah.
Yeah.
Stevens is the wrestler.
Yeah, unfortunately passed away. He was also in Thor as one of the Thor's friends and stuff like that. He's also voiced, I think, Gar Saxon in Rebels and the Clone Wars for Star Wars. He's Volstagg in the MCU. Unfortunately, he passed away in May, almost like right after Celebration, which was like the month before.
Mhm.
So they dedicate the episode to him too. So that's what you're seeing when they say our friend Ray there. But he played, man, he was a hell of a, whatever we want to call this, a dark Jedi. He's not a Sith.
Yeah, no, he's not a Sith. I think, like, I guess Dark Jedi would kind of be the, like, former Jedi, now Dark Jedi.
Mercenary is what they called him, right? Like, he's like...
They've obviously got the
gun for
orange
hire.
sabers to kind of, as Dave Filoni himself said, to kind of indicate that they're not full-on Sith. They're somewhere in between. But what I love about Ray Stevenson is that you could swap out his lightsaber for a greatsword, and you would have a Game of Thrones character. My biggest thing, and I'm sure I'll make these parallels 100 times throughout our time talking about Star Wars here in the coming weeks and months, and with all these shows coming next year, especially Acolyte, which I think is dripping with Game of Thrones kind of vibe to it. I love that kind of, like when Star Wars can feel like Game of Thrones, I love that. And I think Ray Stevenson kind of really personified that to me.
Yeah, he definitely has the vibe of that. So they pretty much make quick work of this New Republic cruiser and take Lady Elsbeth, and who she informs Balin that Ahsoka is the one searching for Thrawn, and we get the Ahsoka title card, and then we are on to Ahsoka, who's at an ancient temple looking for a map to Thrawn.
That we later find out is for the Night Sisters of Dathomir, right?
Yes. Yeah, a little bit of Night Sisters here. Apparently, Elsbeth is a part of the Night Sisters, though she didn't...
survivor, as she put it.
She didn't really use her magic against Ahsoka in Chapter 13 of The Mandalorian. So I think that might be a little bit of a retcon, or maybe she just wanted to get captured. I don't know.
All part of the plan.
Yeah, that's a Palpatine move, right?
Yeah.
But we have HK series droids coming forward, and this is a nice reference to Knights of the Old Republic, HK-47, who's an assassin droid. But these assassin droids are coming. She defeats a couple, and then they go self-destruct, so she has to run out of there. And we get introduced to a character that's been in the Clone Wars, voiced by David Tennant, and that is Huang, who is a droid that's been around for thousands of years and has pretty much the database. I'll give you a rundown here, Chris. He's got like a database in him. He's pretty much helped and instructed every Jedi ever to how to create their lightsaber, and he stores the records in his system. So he's like somebody that is probably the best source of information on the Jedi Order, especially since the Jedi Order is gone. But I'll
Not
put a
to-
picture up of him right here. Here is Huang.
Okay, not to keep bringing back to Harry Potter, but he's kind of like Ollivander, who gave
Yeah,
all the
every
wizards
wand.
their wand. You know, that's what came to my head. But I'll tell you what, I liked the lore that was in that because it was like, ooh, this is interesting. Like it's gripping. Like it's like, oh, the only one I've seen do this, and I was like, ooh,
Only
okay,
one
so
in 500 years that has made a
Yes.
lightsaber like this was Balin's skull. Yeah.
I love this too. This to me so invoked the imagery of that little arc from Clone Wars. Remember with
Mhm.
the
Yep.
Padawans when they were making their lightsabers and everything. Oh man, just everything in this show, it felt like in those first 2 episodes was a callback or a reference or a parallel. Sorry about that motorcycle going by the house. And I saw some people complaining about that, and I was just like, how, man? Like, that's what Star Wars is. It's callbacks and references and it's poetry. Like George Lucas
It rhymes, right?
has said it.
Mhm.
Yes, it rhymes. It just, oh God, I love it.
Yeah, but I love Huang. I like seeing him. I wonder where she got him. Like, was he just? Do we know where he was in Order 66 time? Was he still on the temple or?
I do not know. I couldn't tell you offhand.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to try to search real quick. But yeah, he's trained
I'm
like
just glad he's
thousands.
around. Yeah, I don't care.
Generations.
they could tell me he was up I don't know. I was going to make a bad reference, but they could tell me he was doing anything, and I'd be like, whatever, he's here now. I'm happy.
Yeah, his first appearance was in season 5 of Clone Wars. Yeah, he only appears in 3 episodes of the Clone Wars, actually, too.
It's those 3 episodes.
Yep,
It's
in that arc.
the Padawan arc.
Yep.
When they're, like I said, all the Padawans are building their lightsabers, and then they take them to the cave, and they have to find their kyber crystals. Oh, I love it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, he's been around forever. But I just like having those little moments too. So this moment where he's like rotating through the lightsabers that they scanned, and how he's able to just recall that is pretty awesome. And I like the sass he was bringing to both Sabine and Ahsoka.
Yeah.
You know, when
Been hanging out with Chopper.
yeah, exactly. But I like how he's like, well, I was following the proper Jedi protocols, and Ahsoka's like, well, I'm not a Jedi.
I liked Ahsoka's confidence in this because she seems like she's really confident without being cocky, which is really hard to pull off because most actors just come off as cocky. So I thought that was pretty impressive.
Yeah, and we another thing we kind of touched on, me and you earlier in the chat, was that it didn't start that way for her. She was very brazen and cocky and kind of run in head first, kind of like the way we saw Anakin. It was very much.
Yeah, she was like Anakin 2.0.
Yeah, very much so, rubbing off on him, on her, and just the way that she has matured, and we saw a lot of that in Rebels, especially too. That was really highlighted. It's been awesome, and now to kind of have this sort of swagger where it's like she knows her don't stink, but she doesn't flaunt it in a way that's like off-putting.
Yeah, she's more mature. A lot of people be like, well, where's the spunky fun Ahsoka? And I'm like, she's been through a lot. Like she's
like
not
40.
Deal like that. And she's 40, exactly. She's not gonna be.
In Clone Wars, she was like 14. Like, what do they still want her to act like a teenager? Then they would say,
Yeah.
"No, what's she just Zachary Levi and Shazam?"
True.
Star Wars. This is 40.
So she gets the map, and they've secured it. They get a call from the New Republic though about how they lost Morgan Elsbeth, so they arrive and we get introduced to General Hera Syndulla, introduced to live action Hera. She was in Rebels and Bad Batch as well. And Chris, give me your first impressions of Hera Syndulla here, played by Mary Elizabeth Winstead.
I was actually very impressed that they got such a good actress to play her.
She's
It felt,
dating or married to Ewan
Married, yeah. I was
McGregor.
gonna say,
Yeah,
yeah. The ties to the
there you
Force in
go.
that family are very strong.
yeah, but I feel like I was impressed. I didn't realize that, but I was very impressed because like it feels like they could have just gotten anyone for that role, and they seemed to go all out. She seemed to be very intuitive as a character, and she seemed to point the characters in the direction they were supposed to go, kind of telling them what they already know, but they don't really want to say out loud. And I thought that was a pretty cool role there.
Yeah, for people that don't know, Hera is kind of like that. She's like the Rock of, I'd say, the Rebels crew, where she's very solid, uh, always kind of being the person that can have a conversation with you and make you end up in choice. Ron, your thoughts on Hera's live action debut?
I love to see it, man. Hera was amazing. I'm curious to see if they go more into this stuff. Obviously, her and Kanan's child, and
Jason
Jason
Sindula.
Sindula, yes, and just her relationship with him in general, and how she kind of has, navigated dealing with his loss throughout the years and things like that. So I'm interested to see, because she definitely, while to Chris's point, she definitely was sort of helping along and guiding, us in the story to where we needed to go. I felt like she kind of got backseated a little bit up until at least the end of the second episode. I think she kind of shined, the stuff with her and Chopper planting the tracking device on Shin and Balin's ship and all that.
That was
But,
classic Hera and Chopper.
Oh yeah,
that was classic.
Oh yeah, and we got the little flex from Chopper too. That cracked me up. But yeah, so I think we'll definitely start expanding on her a lot more in future episodes, and I can't wait for that. But yeah, I mean, I loved seeing her, and I mean, Mary Elizabeth Winstead is like you guys said, incredible, incredibly beautiful actress. Just all good vibes all around.
Yeah, the only thing that would distract me sometimes is like, the how her lecus, right? In the back of her head were kind of shaking sometimes. I guess just because of like constantly moving. I guess because of like whatever they make them out of. But I mean, it's a hard character to do as like a actual main story member. But yeah, no, I thought she was great, and I'm really excited to see. Apparently, she watched all of Rebels and Bad Batch to prepare for this. Her appearances in Bad
That's
Batch and stuff.
dedication.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's dedication. I like that.
And Hera's father actually shows up in Clone Wars as well. So yeah, they've been part of the Star Wars history for a while. But like you could just tell from her posture and the way she stood sometimes. I was like, this is somebody that did their research on.
Dude, all of the body language in this show. Same thing with Rosario Dawson.
Yeah.
Ahsoka, like the fold in the arms thing. Like
that's very Ahsoka, yeah.
That is classic Ahsoka. Yeah, I thought the whoever was directing the body language, I'm sure it was Dave and other other folks on set. Whoever was directing the body language was impeccable.
This felt very Star Wars. I know we've said it before, but it was just there was a vibe to it. It was really gripping. It was really interesting. The score hit the right points at the right times. It was very interesting because I remember this afternoon I was watching it and I'm like, I'm really tired. But I'm like, I'm in. Like I'm in, and I appreciated it because I needed it to be gripping. Because 4 a.m. shifts they suck, but Star Wars was a perfect antidote to the middle of the day where you die and you're just like, because you get off at 11:30, you come home, you eat lunch, and you watch Star Wars, and you're like, perfect antidote to the middle of the day blues. I'll tell you, I thought the score of this was just fantastic.
Kevin Kiner, who was one part of the composers of the Clone Wars and Rebels. So yeah, he gets the jump into live action here with this show. And yeah, people have really been talking up the score. It's not really something I noticed too much until I watch it my second or third time though, because I'm just usually so enthralled in the actual action going on.
Especially the piano in the beginning, like when Balin's walking down the hallway and blasters. It was just so ominous. Yeah, he did a great job.
By the way, this is our comparison photos here of Hera from animation to live action and Sabine.
Nailed it.
Yeah, they did. So yeah,
that's awesome.
Hera mentions how they've lost a prisoner, and they said like again. Is this a reference to Giancarlo's character from the Mandalorian run, or you think it's a reference to something else?
I don't really know. What are you speaking about in particular? I might have.
Well, because how Giancarlo was captured. I'm blanking on his name. The
Moff Gideon.
Moff Gideon. Yep. He was captured, and then he got taken from the New Republic on the way to his trial.
So you're saying like? No, I think they were definitely just referring to Elsbeth. Or were you asking? Do I think it's like a parallel in that way?
Well, no, because like Hera mentions or Ahsoka mentions like again that they like lost another prisoner. So I was kind of wondering,
that must have gone right over my head. But yeah, it would stand to reason.
Unless I misheard it, but that's what I thought they were. I thought it was a reference to maybe Moff Gideon.
Maybe, if so, again, because it might have just it was definitely kind of a passing moment line. If so, it wouldn't surprise me at all if that was what they were referring to, especially because we just saw it not even a few months ago.
I hope they were, because look, if they lost more than that, it's like you guys really have got to start locking stuff down.
Oh man.
Stop letting people codes. Get more security on these ships. Stop losing prisoners. God damn it.
Starting to sound like Arkham.
Watch this happens.
Yeah, if I'm Ahsoka, I'm like, God damn, like we just took we just took her down.
It's like the Hangover, her? Bradley Cooper on the phone.
Yeah, we lost Doug.
We messed up.
So we pretty much now, for the first time ever, see Lothal in live action, which looks great. And we get this moment where we're introduced to Clancy Brown as Ryder Azadi. Also voices Lex Luthor in the DCAU.
Cool.
In the original Superman series and stuff. Clancy Brown, legendary voice actor. He actually voiced Ryder as well in the cartoon. But man, this casting was excellent. As soon as I saw him, I was like, this is Ryder. Like, no problem at all. And
don't fix it.
Yeah, I mean, he voiced him too. It's great. It's a great little touch. But yeah, this is Lothal here. Now he's like the president or whatever of Lothal, and then we get to see Hera's artwork here. I mean, not Hera's, sorry, Sabine's artwork. That they're about to introduce Sabine, and she's gone. But this mural, seeing it in live action here, I just wanted to share this photo because it looks great. It's a perfect reproduction of the animated version, I would say.
It was it definitely got me a little misty-eyed seeing that in live action. It was just like, oh man, like this is like I had a few moments last night where I was like, wow, I can't believe this is actually real. And this was one of the most prominent ones for sure, seeing this. And when we see it again towards the end of episode 2, especially, which we'll get to.
Yeah, so Chris, I'll point these people out for you. In the middle, of course, is Ezra. Hera is, obviously the Twi'lek on the left there. But next to her is Kanan, and that was her like husband.
Her boo thing.
Yeah, and then we have Zeb, who's the purple one for you there. And he actually makes an appearance in Mandalorian season 3. I'm assuming he'll appear in the show. And then we have Sabine on the right here, and then Chop on the left. So yeah, I mean, this is a really good representation of it. I think it, gives you enough to know, like he says, Ryder pretty much easily says, like, this was, Ezra sacrificed himself to defeat Thrawn and save Lothal. Like, I think that's all the information you really need.
Yeah, they kind of give it to us, and it just kind of highlights what we as the comic, not comic fans. I'm thinking superhero.
I'm a comic fan though of Star Wars.
True, yes, you are. But like what we as the animated fans know is, sort of Sabine's naturally kind of defiant, personality, and for people who aren't familiar, their first introduction to her is blowing off this important, event where she's going to be honored for everything that the Ghost Crew did. And she's like, yeah, screw that. I'm not showing up. I'm going to go listen to rock music and ride my speeder bike. Like that was just, it told you such an important piece of who she is.
So cool seeing on live action. Information, Chris, that highway very prominent throughout the whole series of Rebels. So
yes,
well, that scene was very cool.
Yeah,
when the music kicks in, I'm like, all right, I'm a punk rock guy. I was like, yeah, let's go.
He drops the speeder and goes under the E-wing and stuff.
I was like, and she's like, she's not gonna stop. She's crazy. I was like, I love that scene. That was fantastic. I really enjoyed that.
Oh yeah, give us your thoughts on Sabine then, because you sent us a message.
Oh yeah, I was like, I'm transfixed. Sabine is awesome. Just total badass. Absolute badass. And she's got this weird little cat where it's like kind of like a cat, kind of like the space thing.
Yeah, these are called Loth cats.
Okay, Loth cats. Okay, but yeah, like Sabine is awesome. She's cool. She is. I mean, I was just like with the motorcycle and like, the attitude was like, okay, she's sexy as hell. This is yeah, I'm here. But I just I was like, okay. And the way the episode ends is like, no, you didn't just set that up.
Yeah.
And I was like,
it got me for a second too. Like, obviously, we've seen her do more stuff in the trailers and like it, but for a split second when she, and not to jump ahead because I know we're going to get there, but like, I was like, no way. There is no way that they're really doing this right now.
Dude, I didn't know. So I was like, no.
You're like, this cool badass person I just watched is dead. Like,
and she's gone.
Like, I was like, that was a lot of character development is what I was thinking. I was like, what the hell? And then I Googled it and it was like, oh, she's in all 8 episodes. Okay.
Yeah, Sabine's cool. I think her live action appearance was pretty well done. I know she's been the one that everybody's raving about actress wise, how they've how
she
well
just owns it. She just straight up owns it. She's like, the motorcycle is like the embodiment of what she's doing. She's just straight up owning it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it almost felt like from the time that she got introduced with this super badass scene, it almost felt like it was a bit more her show than Ahsoka's.
Yeah.
It was her. She's the one deciphering the map, and they spent so much time in the in what is now her home. That was kind of Ezra's hangout, the Lothal Tower, the control tower. It very much felt more a bit like her show.
Well, she had her foot on the accelerator, literally and figuratively. Like she really did accelerate. Like it took a whole new thing because there's a lot of exposition in the first 2 episodes.
Yeah. But yeah, so Huang tells Ahsoka that the map is locked. So Hera suggests Ahsoka go visit Sabine, and Sabine ditches her little mural award, for the Ghost Crew, and they have Ahsoka does arrive, and she goes back over there, and Ryder's like, "Hey, you missed the show yesterday."
Where you been?
But he does tell her, hey, like, and this is where you can kind of tell that there's still animosity, right? Is when he's like, hey, you're gonna want to listen to what she says, like, don't shut her out right away. And this is kind of one of those things where you get hints of like that, and the fact that originally she was kind of like, I don't know, Hera, if she'll even want to help, but this is kind of where you start to get a little bit more of that. There's some friction between these two. And, Ahsoka says, hey, I think I found a way to get to Ezra, knowing that would be the bait for Sabine and not anything to do with Thrawn. But yeah, so then she gives, Sabine the map, and Sabine wants to take it back and study it in her own place. And Ahsoka's like, no, not happening. And then she gets called away.
Like, we'll see about that.
She gets called away for this scene here with the lightsabers. It comes out and she's like, oh, she's gone.
Like, what did she think was going to happen? Honestly.
Yeah.
Like, somebody that knows Sabine that well, like, there was 0.0. And I almost think she kind of knew. Like, you see the way that Ahsoka looks at her when Hu Yang is, is like, I have something to tell you. And she's like, wait. And she's like, no, say it. And the way that Ahsoka kind of looks at her and like, she's like, all right, I know. I think deep down she knew that Sabine was going to take that map.
Yeah, and she studies it. She breaks it pretty easily. I will say, pretty simple code, right?
Yeah.
It matches the bottom of the cavern, but also there's only like 5 items on each side. So you think they could have just...
Why couldn't Jedi Fallen Order be that simple, man?
Yeah, I know. We have to go through a lot more, all right, to get our...
I like to see her get back to the ship.
Yeah, where's my ship at? But yeah, so then as she's finally solving the map is when more HK droids come, and so does Shin. But I do want to share this parallel here. So obviously this probe droid is coming up to Shin here. And then if we want to match that with episode 1, just flip where the probe droid is. Boom.
Yes. The king of kings.
Pretty similar. I think this is intentional.
It's all intentional and it's all amazing.
And then we get this scene. I just think she looks so badass.
Dude, she really is. She kicked ass in like a quiet, stoic, like kind
She's
of
got
way.
the Padawan braid too.
Yes.
I mean, it really is like there's no Sith here. Balin is still teaching her the right way to build the lightsaber that Huang showed. He is having her do the Padawan braid. She's calling him master. Like, it's just, they're not as righteous as the Jedi were. They don't care killing and taking money for it.
I'm just curious to know, like, what their reason for wanting Thrawn back of all people is, because
Balin says power, right? Power will come with it.
Yeah. I guess it just, I feel like there's got to be more there. I feel like there's something like just power feels like very kind of baseline and very kind of run of the mill, like villain-y. I feel like we're going to discover something maybe during that scene when that we've seen in the trailers with Balin and Ahsoka, kind of in what it looks like inside of the constellation.
Inside this thing.
Yes, right there. Yeah. Maybe we'll get some more revelation there. But I do think that there's more at play with those two, for sure.
Well, I was thinking the Eye of Sauron when Lord of the Rings.
Yeah,
when I saw that. I was like, are they copying that? Like, this is like that's exactly what it looks.
Yeah.
That's another place that felt like heavy Game of Thrones vibes.
Yeah.
Especially when Shin and Balin, I'm going to do that a million times. Shin and Balin first go there, and it's just sort of that gray, overcast sky, and you can see the red of the the very kind of dark, but also very prominent red of all the trees. I thought was just amazing imagery.
But yeah, so episode 1 ends with Sabine getting it through the gut, lightsaber, and losing her battle against Shin, who obviously is probably stronger in the Force and has more training than Sabine has. And that's Ezra's lightsaber, by the way, that she's using. But yeah, so there you go. That was the end of episode 1.
Always nice to see some lightsabers.
Yeah,
everyone was complaining about, how'd she survive a lightsaber stab? I think this was before we started recording.
Yeah, it was.
But just to reiterate, there was a very clear difference between where she got stabbed and where Qui-Gon Jinn got stabbed. Qui-Gon got it right through the chest. She kind of got it more on the side. I mean, if we can accept, Darth Maul is my favorite character. If we can accept that dude got like sawed in half and literally somehow survived in a cave for all these years with like no medical attention and all this stuff and just becoming this weird spider robot thing. If we can accept that, I can accept Sabine surviving, a right side of the abdomen lightsaber wound.
This is when you need someone who's not crazy into Star Wars going, it's Star Wars, guys.
Yeah.
Like, this stuff can happen. Although, I gotta be honest with you, I thought she was dead with the episode. I was like, what?
There was a split second where I was like, no, but then I kind of realized. But it was shocking for sure.
It was a nice dramatic effect to end the episode on, and I guarantee you nobody in the entire world didn't immediately watch the next one.
Yep.
Right. I'm glad they released 2 as well. I thought that was a good move for them. It was like film length, an hour and a half. It was great.
Can you imagine the discourse online?
Well, I think it would have been kind of a blah cliffhanger to leave off on, just because all of the Rebels fans like would know that she's not going to die. It would have felt like an anticlimactic thing to leave us off on if we had to wait a whole nother week, I think. So it was good, to Jordan's point, that they released them back to back like that.
So then we get episode 2, which is called Part 2, Toil and Trouble, written by Dave Filoni, directed by Steph Green. She directed an episode of Book of Boba Fett last year, 2 years ago, however long ago that was now. Yep. It aired August 22nd, 2023 on Disney+. And we kind of start right off the bat here with Sabine recovering from her injury. And kind of they get this plan to get another droid that they can access the memory core from before it like overheats, techno blabble.
Basically just do the same thing that they did in the first episode, which is explode and cause destruction.
Yes. Right. But so Ahsoka goes to Sabine's house and at the control tower thing and hopes that there will still be a droid there, and there was. She chops off its head, and they do some techno babble, right? And we find out that the droid is coming from Corellia, which is where a lot of the New Republic shipyards are, and apparently where Elsbeth had a shipbuilding company or something originally. I didn't peg her for an entrepreneur, but it looks like she was. And Ahsoka and Hera are going to go investigate, and we find these people in the shipbuilding yard here that they state, right, that some of them are former Imperials, obviously, because they want to be able to keep production up. So they couldn't really let go of everybody that was Imperial. And I thought this actually made a lot of sense. I feel like that's something that would happen, like, well, capitalism, we got to keep making these things.
There's historical examples, and I'm not even going to mention because I don't want to start drawing lines between Star Wars and like horrible fiction or non-fictional atrocities that have taken place in our world. But there's real life examples of that sort of thing. Like the worst people you can think of have been defeated, but let's take some of their great minds and still, use them to create car companies, things like that. You know what I mean? So yeah,
very subtle.
Yeah, I know, but you get what I'm saying. Like it's very much.
I know.
Sort of like doing that same thing. It's that capitalist mind, all about the bottom line, what's making productivity continue to chug along, no matter what, at what expense.
Yeah. So I guess I was a little confused here in the sense of the guy who's running the show. I didn't think he was an Imperial sympathizer still, but he still walked out arrested. So I was kind of shocked there.
Well, because he was also the one that was like tripping them up. You know what I mean? When Hera was like, "I'm a general. What do you mean I don't have clearance to view this?" Right. So he was definitely sketchy from the start. I think I kind of the whole time I was watching, I was like, "Yeah, there's something ain't on the up and up here." And then as we saw, seconds later, for the Empire, and the guy pulls out the blaster, and of course misses because it's Star Wars. Yeah, so that didn't really surprise me. That whole the way that I kind of viewed that was like a sketchy mafia chop shop, only with spaceships. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so apparently their whole plan here is to send these Star Destroyer that have been decommissioned, sending their hyperspace drives and sending them to wherever Elsbeth is having this new ring built. And this ring is almost exactly what we see in Attack of the Clones when Jedi starfighters have to use them to hyper travel. So it's like a bigger version of that for a bigger ship, I guess. So that way they can travel to this other galaxy, which is what the map leads to. Which I assume is just a map not to actually Thrawn, but a map to like the Purgil's right area.
Yeah.
Because that's where they were taken. So I assume it's not like literally a map to Thrawn. It is a map to where he was last thought to be.
Yeah, I think that we'll probably they'll spend some time. Maybe like the finale will be them, or the second to last episode will be like them arriving on the planet, and the whole last episode will essentially be a race to Thrawn. Although, actually, no, probably not, because we're going to see a lot of Thrawn in this show, as we've seen. And one of the points where we do see him in the trailer, he is very clearly inside of Elsbeth's ship. So it wouldn't surprise me, actually, if we kind of, from here, really pick up the pace and kind of get this show, rolling along.
I think we see Thrawn by episode 4.
Mm-hmm.
Is going to be my thought. I feel like they would have wanted to keep the trailers from stuff in the first 4 or so episodes.
True, that is true as well. Very true.
So I would assume we see Thrawn by episode 4. I assume that I assume a lot of this stuff is going to be picking up like really, really quick. They set the stage in these first 2, and I think we're just going to be kind of hitting the ground running.
I think we're going to be spoiled by it. I think it's going to be a lot of action.
Where they're supposed to go. This galaxy at the bottom is their galaxy. They're supposed to go here. You see like the Purgils around it. That's why I think it's like a map to there.
Right? That's also very reminiscent of the World Between Worlds kind of stuff. I believe it was the wolves running around it, though.
Yes.
In that sort of portal. So it's not really a great kept secret that we're going to see the World Between Worlds in this show at some point. So that's very, very exciting too.
Yeah, the way she mentions it too. He's calling to me between space and time. Like
yes,
yeah.
Sure. Do you want to kind of break down what for Chris and the people who don't know? Do you kind of want to break down what the World Between Worlds is?
World Between Worlds is this area that was accessible on a Jedi temple in Lothal, and when Ezra did get in there, we heard sound bites from every film in the saga at that point of release. So like you even heard Kylo Ren's voice, even though it takes place way before then. You could hear, old Obi-Wan, you could hear Yoda, all of these characters in there. And there's like little doorways almost that you could see into, and they were little pockets in time. And actually that's how Ahsoka kind of came back into the fold, as Ezra pulled in and grabbed her out from a spot where it looked like she wasn't going to survive. And
so it's kind of like the nexus point of it all.
Yeah, sort of. Yeah.
And also like weirdly in a way, like time travel, because you could it's all these iconic Jedi moments like that sort of play themselves in these individual portals in the stars. It's a little confusing, but also just so awesome. And I think
honestly, it's got a little bit of a Legends of Tomorrow vibe to it. I'm following it to a degree.
I think that's probably where we're going to get a lot of our cameo action in this show as well.
Or flashbacks even of like stuff that has happened. Here, I got pictures for it too. So if people are watching on this is what it looked like in Rebels. So you would have like this little moment here that you can walk right up to, and it's like this big space and time moment with just white outlines. and stuff.
Is that like a portal?
Yeah, pretty
Yeah.
much. Yeah. And you can see there's other portals like in the back here, right? There's little constellations and stuff. So, yeah, we'll see if we see it in here. But that does look very similar to something like this, where you see all these lines constantly. It
I
looks very
wonder-
similar.
I wonder the graphic for Ahsoka kind of has.
It does, yeah.
And it makes you
literally
wonder.
does.
It
Yep.
makes you wonder if that's connected.
Yeah, I would think so. That it's curious. I'm really curious to see how they do this, because I do think you can see some flashbacks or alternate universes, that don't happen, where she could walk by it and see what, her choices have led her to or whatever. I don't think we'll get the full on like pulling or plucking people out of it the way we did in Rebels. I think they'll try to stay away from that.
Too confusing for people.
Yeah. I think they'll stay away from that. But yeah, pretty cool. It looks cool. I really like the aesthetic of just like the
It's
black
so dope.
with
And
the
it would
stars.
be so easy to duplicate on those sort of
Volume.
surround sound stages that they have now. It would be so easy to do.
Definitely. But yeah, so then the second episode pretty much goes really quick here, I would say. So the hyperdrives are being set up to help this hyperspace ring, but then also we get the redone scene of Rebels season 4 finale, which is where Ahsoka returns and Sabine has cut her hair. She's wearing her Mandalorian armor again, and she's ready to start again, as Hoang would say. And that kind of sets us up for where we're going from here. So I do think the first 2 episodes were a really good choice to make sure that by week 2 in episode 3, we are hitting the ground running, I would assume.
Yeah. And we've kind of seen with the 6 episode format that you can't really do what they did with this, but now it kind of feels like we got those 2 episodes, which kind of felt like a prologue, obviously ending with the point where we ended off at Rebels kind of confirms that. And now we have what should be 6 straight episodes of just balls to the wall, like craziness. So for people who were, not too big of fans of the slow pace, slow-ish, I will say, actually, because there was still some very high points in terms of action. For people who thought it was a little slower for their taste, I would say just hold on, because all signs point to this thing taking off and not stopping from here.
Yeah, we have 8 episodes in this show, so I think the fact that we still have 6 more, I think, gives us a really good vibe on how this is going to go. I just wanted to also point out, I really like the way that the holograms appear in Elsbeth's ship, how they have like this green dust floating around them. I don't know what that was. I love it.
Well, it was. I think it was supposed to be
her
representative of
Night
the Night Sister magic.
Yeah.
And actually, in that scene as well, we also kind of get an indication that Balin is not exactly, not full on Sith, not full on evil. He shows some trepidation in, like, he says he doesn't want to kill Ahsoka because
he says that'd be a shame.
Left. Yeah. And it wasn't like sarcastic either. He was like serious to the point where even Morgan Elsbeth like makes a comment on it. So I think they're definitely setting these characters up to be gray, and I don't use that term ironically to get into the whole gray Jedi stuff, because I don't think that's ever going to be.
Yeah. All right. Any other thoughts on this, or like where we're headed from here? Chris, are you bought in here fully?
I mean, I'm enjoying it. It's exciting. It's fun. That's all I ask for my entertainment, is to entertain me. I say that a lot. It's one of my favorite things to say, actually. But I very much am enjoying it. I want to see more. I want to see what I learn organically through the show. It's one of my things I'm paying attention to. Is like, all right, what do I learn in the show, and how does it affect my viewing of Star Wars in general? So I'm excited, bought in. I'm ready for the next episode. That's for sure.
And Chris will be on next week while Ron is on vacation as well. So we'll definitely get an update on how Chris is feeling on the third episode and what he's learned in that episode. And hopefully it's a lot. I'm hoping the third episode's really, really cool. I'm trying to think about how fast this is gonna go, or I've heard apparently some sources say the first 5 episodes are like really great and the last 3 are like breakneck speed. But I think we might be at breakneck speed starting next week, if I had to guess.
I'm for it. That's entertaining to watch. I'm in Star Wars school, baby. I'm in Star Wars school. I'm digging it. I'm a Padawan. It's fun.
Yeah. We got everything we needed to know in these first 2 episodes. We got the point of the show. We got excellent sort of insights into all these characters and what they've been up to in the last decade. And now it just feels like that's all that's left is like, all right, let's go now,
Yeah. Any other thoughts, Ron, on where we could be heading or anything that we didn't talk about that you wanted to highlight on the episodes?
I think the only thing, because I definitely wanted to touch on the World Between Worlds a little bit, and I'm glad we did. But I think there's so much potential, and I know this is something, cameos, blood, like that's all everything is these days. But I think that there is the chance for very meaningful, not just thrown in cameos in this show. We've already had one Anakin reference. Darth Maul has been so integral to Ahsoka and Ezra's story. It would be, in my opinion, silly to not have some kind of reference to him in there or a flashback scene or something. There's imagery, we've talked about Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor a few times in this show. We might see Cal Kestis show up in this thing. Like there's been some imagery that they've been slowly starting to sprinkle into these Star Wars projects that we first got introduced to in those games. We could see Luke again. We can see Kanan. There is so many like possibilities of things that they can add into this show that would not only be fan service to us, diehard fans, but would really add something to the story. And I think that's what I'm most excited about.
Yeah, it might help with casuals too, like explaining.
Yeah. Oh, Luke's here. Yeah. Kind of like what that did for the last episode of Mando season 2, and how people still go back and talk about that.
But it pulls me into anytime I know something. It's like, oh, cool, I know that guy.
Yeah. But yeah, it's going to be awesome, man. I mean, it's a Rebels fan's dream. It has been so far. We're getting Night Sisters. We're getting Thrawn. Anybody who has something bad to say about, or maybe not something bad, because I'm sure that there is, this is a subjective thing. But anybody who's just crapping all over this show and saying it was bad and it was horrible, like, just stop watching, man, because it's clearly not for you. If this wasn't for you, then I just, Star Wars ain't for you. That's my opinion.
This is fun. If you don't like fun, I don't care. That's kind of another thing I'm saying a lot lately. It's like, hey, if you don't like fun.
Well, I saw something somebody said that was like, I keep seeing people say it's fun, but I can't see if people say it's good. I'm like, look, when I think something's fun, it's good. Like, I like having fun. I don't know why that's such a hard thing to understand.
I had so much fun at Six Flags today, but it sucked. Good?
I think Thor: Love and Thunder. I think Thor: Love and Thunder is where the fun thing started. It's like, oh, you'll have fun, but
it was. It definitely was. And to play devil's advocate, I do in a way kind of understand that, because there's plenty of fun movies that aren't good, but this Star Wars is different. Like Star Wars, it's you don't get the benefit of the doubt of, oh, it was fun. It was either good or it wasn't. And if you're saying it's fun, it was good.
Right. All Star Wars is good Star Wars to me, anyway.
Amen.
So yeah, I'm very excited to see how we all enjoy this as we continue going. So I want to thank you for both taking your time and jumping on here with me, so I didn't have to do this alone.
Yeah, I'm just glad I didn't fall
I
asleep
kind of thought I
during
was
the
going to have
episode.
to do. I know, Chris. I know you're probably struggling with how late it is. For
Oh,
you.
well, so the thing is, like, I'm off tomorrow, but like, I'm gonna help my mom babysit a 2-year-old. So, I'm like, that's gonna be a tiring day. It's gonna be fun, but like, I'm just like, I've been up since 3 in the morning.
Yeah.
It's just like the last night I started watching the first episode, and I said, nope, I want to enjoy this, and I
Right.
did, and it was killed me because it's like this looks so good.
So I
And
guess
you
I don't
guys
know.
were messaging. I don't want to be the party pooper, but I gotta go bed.
Do you guys have anything you want to plug or where people can find you?
No, I mean my Twitter @ is right there. You see it next to my name. Give me a follow for all kinds of nerdy takes that I'm sure you'll disagree with and tell me I'm a dumbass for. But hey, that's the fun, and that's why we do this. So yeah, drop me a follow. I'd love to hang out with you guys.
You know, I'm a Football Man 58 on the app formerly known as Twitter. All my Ravens content you can find there for Russell Street Report. At Multiversal Omni is Chris Talks Comics. I've been doing a little more of that. Yeah, and Elseworlds, a DC fan podcast. You always hear me there.
What's that? I never heard of it.
Yeah, for our listeners, that's not what I referred to earlier. Elseworlds, our DC fan podcast. We just got done talking Blue Beetle last week. This upcoming week, we're talking Arrowverse through season 7 of The Flash, which I will be dropping my little discussion. It's my first time watching the Arrowverse, so we'll talk about that there. Over on my Marvel pod, I covered Secret Invasion. Right now, we're kind of taking a break before Loki comes out. Season 2 of that is dropping right after Ahsoka's done that Friday.
Well, that's a good stretch.
I'll go right in from Ahsoka right into Loki coverage.
That's a good stretch right there. Loki season 1 was maybe the best Disney Plus thing we've gotten.
I loved it.
I think it was. Yeah, I think it definitely was.
And I'm excited that they're finally putting these on Blu-ray. I am going to be purchasing all of these on 4K Blu-ray.
Well, why wouldn't they? I mean, I know it encourages people to get it if you don't put Disney Plus, but at this point, if you don't have Disney Plus, you're not getting Disney Plus.
Right. And let us own things. I mean, come on. What happens if everything goes under? I want to be able to watch if my internet's out,
if it all goes asunder, I can pull out this thunder.
That's where you can find all of us at. I'll put that stuff in the show notes too or whatever. But thank you all for watching and listening along with us. And we'll catch you next week for Ahsoka Part 3.